This lecture will treat cognitive and musical phenomena in the piece Tobaro. The first part of the lecture will be a description of the issues related to the artistic vision of perceiving the world by a blind person. The second part will deal with the perception of the viewer with a musical medium settled in the world created by the authors. Tobaro is an audiovisual and non-linear artwork with elements of interaction designed for Oculus Quest 2 VR headset and inspired by game mechanics. The viewer enters it as a half-blind character, dazed during an explosion, who awakens to life in the game with partial amnesia.
To create the visual part, I had to learn about and analyze the process of vision loss and the concept of blindness. This difficult experience significantly affects the way we perceive reality. In a public space, there is such a term as sense of light. It refers to people who, even with total loss of vision, can distinguish day from night or determine the direction from strong light falls. The film Blue is Derek Jarman's last work, which is kind of a memoir of his last years in his life. Jarman was HIV positive for many years, which is directly linked to his loss of sight. Through the extreme procedure of using a single blue board, the director invites us to experience his memories. Notes on Blindness is a virtual reality created by Arte TV, based on John Hull's tapes, which is a theologian who lost his sight and documented his feelings and experiences to cassettes. The project was go one step further than Jarman's Blue. The virtual reality uses 3 types of textures that attempt to mimic and convey to the viewer how the person who is losing a sight might see. When creating apps for Oculus Googles, you have to keep in mind that they have an Android system that runs just like its mobile version. So optimization for our project has to be at high level to make the whole thing run smoothly. Furniture in the game cannot be mapped to real-world surroundings because we assume the app should be available to everyone. We consider the possibility of it being available in Oculus Store. We will need a huge space to show our project if we will do that. I repeatedly wondered how to achieve a good balance between the visible and invisible in a fantasy world. The viewer has to be able to recognize the environment and move freely through it, which did not make my task any easier. The color scheme was by design to be based on blue and yellows emerging from the darkness. On the walls and other transparent objects, the blue was to help the viewer to see more than he or she should. The particle system I create and used for the objects inside the villa adds magic to the whole environment. And of course, it's taken from Notes on Blindness, but it's similar only in appearance. The particles in mentioned work are static, blue, and do not change color. In my case, they put into vibration, have a center lifespan, and color change with it. The legs leading the viewer to the other rooms. Interacting with some object triggers additional dialogue, which allows the player to learn more details of the story. The visual highlights during dialogues are colored by particles symbolizing the interludes, and the color personalization helps the viewer to distinguish the characters of the events happening around him. Krzysztof and I treated the game in an artistic way. We just exposed the project with reality, and after many discussions on it, became real, but it assumes the equivalence of music and visual game layer.
Mechanics known from the games have proven themselves as serious methods in the education, sports, management, or marketing, among others, to stimulate desired behavior and shape cognitive processes. There is a chance that they can also prove themselves on musical ground, which I wanted to partially explore in Tobaro. To create a link between music and the open world, several key elements has to be transferred. First, VR as an attempt to create an immersive virtual world. Second, the partial phenomenon of interaction. The third, the creation of coherent story layer, in the case of Tobaro, set in the fantasy world. Not all elements have been transferred due to technological and time limitations. However, efforts have been made to inspire the game's mechanics enough to create an entirely new, explorable musical space, at least enough to speak of Tobaro as a prototype for a broader narrative. Above all, however, a world has been created that contains several elements for the type of game Tobaro was inspired by. Phenomena happening independently from the viewer, phenomena which are influenced by the viewer, as well as attempts to create a non-linear plot and various action solutions as the first step to create free-roaming experience. Several phenomena were created musically: pieces, dialogues, artifact sounds, and soundscapes. In each room, there was a pool of these sounds that the viewer experienced it. They could leave the room at the moment of the action ended and go to another room having with a different pool of events. The viewer was directed to successive locations where they learned about the plot elements intended to bring them closer to learning the truth about the place. This was supposed to make the viewer want to explore the room further. Viewers didn't have to focus only on the plot. They could focus only on the music, and they grow dependent on what they want to do in the place. This differs from the understanding of the traditional music work. In this work, the viewer is not just a passive listener. Here they can be an active participant influencing events and do what they want to achieve. So the scope of perception of the work changes. The viewer can become more active and involved.
Okay, I said too much in the other part. So I will just continue. The game mechanic allow us to decide how much of the game, of the story, we want to discover. And in this project, it's so unique in the market of art in virtual reality that most of work in this type are simply transferring images to a multimedia space and trying to animate them.
Tobaro was intended to show the musical side that there is a chance to use gaming phenomena and game inform to arouse the interest of the public who can't or don't want to join to be in concert halls. Although its final release as a prototype, this project may continue in future as to cover the gaming phenomena.
Thank you very much.
Once upon a time, people lived in a harmony and accord with nature. That's the common myth. It is believed that in the industrial age, people distance from the nature, leading to a climate crisis, extinction of species, and another environmental disaster. In the one hand, it's true, but on the other one, if we will analyze ways of functioning of societies, we will see that basically people never lives close to the nature. Profound interference is a fruit of our growing capabilities. What do you think was the primary active of the first representatives of Homo sapiens when they expand from the South Africa? The arrival of man was always connected with the bearing of vast areas of forests. The megafauna became extinct also because of man, who was already able to be unrivaled opponent of the other species. Man's dominance is our special characteristic, also a characteristic of artists. I myself experienced this pleasant satisfaction when, after my graduation, I could transfer my artistic visions in the form of murals to the huge walls of several story buildings. Big pleasure. But, you know, research, technology, development, culture, and education let us now a global community to know a consequence and a scale of our collective activities. And maybe now, the first time in the human history, we can really get closer to the nature. I think that prevailing narratives are taking us off from the central pedestal of the humanism. And me, as an artist, I would like to step down from this pedestal too, and make the work of art available to the other organism, and make the artist place where culture and nature can meet. I accept the hypothesis that creativity is not only a domain of man, and this assumption led me to see the potential co-creator in the other organisms. My project involves creating a series of objects. I named them Postartefacts. They are made by human, but transformed by the other organism, but by nature. The work aims to trace a possible scope of this collaboration. In order to visualize interaction between culture and nature, I decided to use as a material paper, which has a deep connotation with culture and completely independent from the culture life, Zoe, which is represented by biota. An artist, therefore, plays a role of the first mover. He prepares the initial arrangement of the object, the ground, and the whole thing, by seeding or planting, is entrusted to creative activities of the other organisms. Each completed object is a database for analyzing technological issues, such as choice of the material or the arrangement of space. Observation of biota behavior leads me to the various conclusions. I learn about plants' reaction to external stimuli like light, water, nutrients. And I realized that artist gardener has a significant influence to the final shape of the work, although the work is not fully dependent on him. An additional component of the object is a time or process, is a value which is difficult to explain, to describe. Because on the one hand is dynamic, because we can, as observators, we can see the daily, the moving of plants when they follow the daily journey of the sun. But on the other hand, the process requires photo or film recording to give its substitute to the gallery viewers who don't have a time for a longer meditation. Each object is basis for thinking about the role of artist. Must he act as a creator, demiurge, or can he stand in the position of curator of processes, recognizing the creative potential among other non-human agents? I believe that all the action, all the project, including arts, can stimulate societies to show the value of the other organism and in some way to help to get people be closer to the nature just now. Thank you for the opportunity to present my project. My name is Aleksandra Pulińska, and the project is titled Postartefacts, Paper as a Material and Medium on the Border of Culture and Nature.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for this introduction. Dear Holobions, my name is Nadja Reifer, and I welcome you to my presentation of my PhD project, Interspecies Incubation. My project deals with the transformation of human-centered incubation theories, which are basically the unconscious states of the mind in the creative process, to interspecies incubation assemblages with the help of my collaborators, which are the many-headed organisms Line Mode and machine learning systems. Recent studies from neuroscience indicate that incubation processes possess not only passive components, but are also involved in higher functions, such as different states of concentration. This unconscious state of concentration is intertwined with the milieu, which can be also called transcorporality after Stacy Alamo. According to the French philosopher Gilbert Simonton, the milieu designates a correlation between a living being, its organic companion species, and even the non-organic matter. Therefore, the incubation in the creative process can be understood as an interaction of more than human rhythms. The methodology of the project includes theories and thought processes of new materialism, collaboration with experts, and approaches of design fiction. Therefore, this interdisciplinary research project attempts to make those incubation entanglements tangible. This should promote discourses in a new way and should break through conventional models of thinking. The participants, so the slime mold, and the machine learning systems should not be anthropomorphized but freed from the passive role of the exploited other. Therefore, the used metaphors and assemblages are developed together with experts from the fields of microbiology, computer science, psychology, and communication design to determine similarities and differences of the metaphors. At the beginning, I conducted an intensive literature review on various psychological theories of incubation, which were deconstructed later on. In doing so, I summarized these into the 8 most common theories and then visualized them in these diagrams. After this intensive literature research and an analysis of these psychological incubation theories, I searched for the 5 quintessences of this analysis, which we can see here. And these 5 quintessences represented my basic framework for the questions as well for the supporting cards in the expert interviews. So for a first approach to the interdisciplinary entanglement of the topic with the experts, I developed a conversation tool in the form of brainstorming cards. These cards were created to provide an orientation of the discussed metaphors and to give a kind of documentation function. So all these data of the intensive literature research and expert interviews, as well as the discovery and practical work with my co-actors, leads to the artistic speculative apparatus and experiments on the next slides. So we created a so-called bioreactor, which enables a kind of communication interface between the rational machine learning system, the unpredictable biological unconsciousness slime mold, and the human data. In this apparatus, the attempt is made to transform the previously mentioned 5 quintessences on an interspecies level. These bioreactors each contain a slime mold culture and a light maze generated by a machine learning system. An attempt was made to use the machine learning system sparingly to draw attention to the need to conserve energy resources of AI. These mazes represent human perceptions of various concepts generated by a sentiment analysis of various posts on the internet. As the slime mold reacts differently to colors of light, this influences the slime mold in its growth and at the same time shows the attempt to contaminate the data colonialism with slime. By measuring the surface vibrations of the slime mold using biodata sonification, we convert this data into MIDI signals and further into rhythmic visualizations and music. Oh, we don't have audio? Okay. So further experiments with the bioreactors took place, which involved humans in various ways to contaminate them consciously as well as unconsciously with the slimy rhythms. So here, for example, we tried to make the contamination of a bodily unconsciousness tangible through a dance performance. Another approach shows the narration of being able to talk to the slime molds. In this way, visitors could record their voices, which were then triggered depending on the growth of the slime mold and become part of the musical performance. The final experiment, which is still in development, shows the linking of the bioreactors to a VR application. While the visitor experiences the visual and auditory fractal rhythms immersively, the coordinates of the mostly unconscious movements are recorded and transformed into the light maze. This creates a kind of two-way rhythmic communication between slime mold and human being. Thank you for your attention.
you.
Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Magdalena Szwajcowska and I've just finished the first year of the PhD doctoral school at the Academy of Arts here in Wrocław. And my supervisor is Szymon Hanczar, who is the head of the Department of Furniture. And my subject is impact of temporary forms on organized gaps in the urban tissue of the city, recovering the potential of the spaces. So actually I would like you to tell you what is it all about. So actually all over the world there are some places that are temporary, unused, unorganized, abandoned, forgotten, either useless. And these are where I wanted to show you some examples. What am I talking about? So this could be, for example, places like you can see at the bottom left, like places next to the river with a very beautiful view, which are not used at all. Either some passages which are not, they just don't work. Either some places like garages, which can be used in a very nice way, and they are not. And actually the point is about this project is that we want to do, there are some easy solutions, but it's very important to have social aspects of them. We need to do good analysis of the solutions to make nice questions, but have good answers. And first of all, of this subject is not to spoil anything. My idea about this is to do the cheap but solid projects to make them easy to construct, easy to removable, usage and use. I'm sorry, you go too fast. Can you go back?
No, it's about 20 seconds.
Shit. Okay. So now I'm kind of lost. Okay, so let's go further away. So actually this, okay, so now I'm lost, I'm sorry. You will not understand more if you are not to go back. Please go. Please, can you go back? I'm sorry, because right now it's, no one understands the point of the project.
All right, here?
Okay.
Or further away?
No. Okay, here, okay? So actually the main point is don't spoil the project. So very important is here to build a project that are cheap and solid and easy to construct, easy to removable, usage and reusable. And very important is to use the proper materials that can be also reused. It's important also is about the scale of the projects. It means that if it depends on the projects that we are dealing with, we can have projects on scale S, M, either A. Okay. And here, can you switch? And here you can see from my last research some projects out of scale S that I found in the cities all over the Poland. Like you can see the post-German bunkers, either some installations on the bottom right, either some places for kids, which could be like rebuilt, either like more, there could be like more rebuilt. And here you can see the examples of the scale S projects. This is actually the place which is in the city, or the main place in the city of Wrocław, which was actually not visible by everybody, but after putting the stairs, everybody started to use it, and after observations, we saw that none of these blue chairs were empty. Another example of projects that were created in Wilno was the stairs on this amphitheater in the concrete. place, which also worked after we installed it. So here you can see the research of places from M scale. You can see some walls which are painted in the bad way, which could be used. Here you can use, for example, from the Gdańsk top right, the place with the wonderful view to the harbor, which is very important, but it's not used at all. And some other places that could also be used in other ways, but they are just empty. This is from scale M. Yes, and another one, which you can see again, like the passage with the whole big whole wall. Yes, you could also use it in some way, just you need a good idea, but it's empty, and it's just, you know, nothing is here. So yes. And the next one, you can see the example of solution of the Scale AIM project. It was made in Vilno with cooperation with Michał Majewski, who is sitting there. And actually it was the empty fountain which we put the installation on, and after this it started to be filled with chilled people, and it was very happy for us because it started to be a very social place. This is another M solution, which you can see this triangle there, and the place is very specific because next to the cinema, next to the main entrance to the party place, and next to the tram and bus stations. And I created this kind of project called Waiting Space. And actually, after doing this, it really worked, which was really happy for us. So it meant that in the social way, it really worked, which is a success of this subject of the project that I'm working with. And the scale A, unfortunately, I don't have any realization. I have only, I can show you the conceptual example of solution, which was called Vertical Museum. This building that you're looking at is already destroyed, but the proposal was to make it like a vertical museum, so to put the staircase inside and to invite some artists, either like graffiti painters, to paint inside. And as you see, you would like walk up and down to look through and see the art in this way. At the top, you would have the terrace and be able to look through the beautiful Wrocław. And the conclusion is that there are the places in every city that are worth discovering or reclaiming. Working with them not only fixes the spaces, but it depends the social aspect involving local residents. Temporary forms are both a safe test for long-term activities, but also a tour attraction. A city doesn't need doesn't need to expand beyond its borders, just shield them and look for appropriate, original, and in some ways very attractive places and solutions that fit into the characteristics of the neighborhood inside of it. Yes, and actually here I want to show you the potential place I would like to make my intervention. So it's one of the oldest, actually maybe the oldest, ice cream Roma shop, where usually in the summer there is like a full of people standing eating ice cream. They sit in the middle of the street, and I would like to make some intervention there using these railings, which you perhaps saw on the other side of the street, only using the scale S of the intervention, something like that. So actually, I'm sorry for this all delayed, but this 20 seconds, it's crazy for me. I was trying to do my best to learn that, but yeah, but it's hard for me. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Laura. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really thankful that you all stayed till the end, and there are so many people who are going to listen to me. Yeah, I'm ready. We can start. My name is Laura Adel. The title of my doctoral dissertation is Tenderness of the Art, and with this project I aim to create immersive installations which are extended with interactivity. And my supervisor is Jakub Jernajczyk. Professor, sorry. Of course. So in a nutshell, who I am, what I'm doing, I'm exploring the aesthetic based on natural phenomena, but I'm trying to install them in some kind of environment which is extended with sensor technology and other new modern inventions, but mostly I work with human relations. And stone is the main object of my creation, because when you take a look at the stone, you think it's cold and you can't touch it. But if you take a closer look, there are plenty of branches and it's distorted and distracted because of the environment. Because when you look at the people, you assume that you know the truth about them. But if you take a closer look, actually what you see is the projection of yourself. And all you can see is what your apparatus make you able to see. But also, when you look at other people, you add to them some reflection of yourself, but also the reflection of their surrounding, their duties, their function. This is why I sometimes use my stone as a model, but also I influence the view with water and other filters which distract the image. So as you can see, I'm working with a real and sensual object, because I think that we don't have access to real objects. All we can perceive, what we can cognite, is the sensual thing. And I was thinking, what can show us this tension between reality and sensuality? And this is when I came to the conclusion that when I scan an object, I have a version of it, the perceived version, but it's not the real one. And you have example on this slide of my recent discoveries. So those are the hidden forms which hide the real object, and this is the work I've created, which is showing this tension between two models, actually, although the higher one is the real one and the lower one is the printed version. And also to feel this tension between sensual and real object, between what we can perceive and what is reality or the origin of thing, I think that touch helps us, because our body knows more than our mind, and that's really interesting. Then when you touch things, when you feel them with your body, you actually gain more information than when you analyze them. And when I was thinking how to show what is invisible, I came to the conclusion that maybe we are virtuality. And the gate to virtuality for me is a screen. This is where I show these hidden inner spaces of objects. And I equal humans and objects. So the screen is a gate, and via different transformation which I'm putting on my modules, I want to show the character of their inner spaces, of their inner worlds. But I want my viewer to understand my vision. I want them to be immersed in this situation. This is why I think that I create my pieces in the way that they are creating their own worlds, the independent worlds, where all the elements which I'm using, they are adding a new interpretation, of way of interpretation of the whole situation. Communication plays a key role in my creation. This is why I implement my viewer to my whole creation, and I perceive reception of the piece as a sense-making act. I'm leaving some hints for my viewer to understand the meaning. I'm using a space as an additional hint for understanding, and I'm thinking, what's the character of the space? What's the character of my material? So all the media I'm using, they are adding a meaning, they are hints, they guide the viewer to discover the meaning. And also the space is a really important feature, because when you enter a space, you From the very first moment, you know where to go, you know how to behave, you feel the atmosphere which leads you to some behavior. On the other hand, there's interpassivity, and that's a really it's a really fascinating phenomena. And the idea of it is that if we are using some technology, some medium which is based on new technologies, you project your action into this media. For example, if we download an article from the internet, we gain satisfaction as if we had read it, but the truth is that we just download it. To avoid this situation, this distance from the moment and the reality, I'm using the features of the space. So here I'm using the structure of the wall to emphasize that my viewer is here and now. And I also believe that the setup of the installation gives a viewer idea how to behave and what's the atmosphere of the piece. So this one is a little bit related with religion, spirituality, and I think that it literally guides you to those assumptions. And I believe that interaction, which is based on the intuition and based on the setup of the whole situation, leads us to the meaning which the body also tells us. So we don't have to analyze, we just got immersed and we understand. We feel as a part of entire situation. So thank you so much. Here are my website if you want to dive deeper to my moving images. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for those wonderful presentations. Very interesting. I actually have a couple of questions, if that's okay. The first question is for Aleksandra, and it's to do with, I really thought that your work looked incredibly beautiful. And I liked the sort of story that it told about you graduating and making these amazing murals, which look fantastic, and then developing your work into these amazing little installations. I don't know if I've got that right, because you talked about making these works available to people by filming them, if they didn't have time to look at them, but they look, those installations, like they should be in galleries, because I thought that they were amazing sculptures. Am I right that you're installing them that way as well?
I prepared my object to show them in the gallery, but it's impossible to show them in the all look, because this process is really important part of the object. So that's why I decided to record them, to make a photo, and make from this recording some part of the exhibition.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you a supplementary question, if I may, before I move on to my second question. And given what the other Aleksandra was saying earlier on, what's your ethical sort of position about making these works of art with these plants? How do you take care of the plants? Are you exploiting the plants? And what happens to them next once you've created these documentations?
I try to make in this object the situation that they live as long as it is possible, and my analysis led me to make the objects better for the next time, and some of the objects could live a really long time, few months, for example. But I don't know that maybe I understand good your question. But all the time I'm thinking that, okay, so I'm work with them, or I'm I use them. I don't want to use them. My intention is to give them deep, give the other organism a deep respect, and this is my idea, and I hope it is possible to see in my work that.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, I mean, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to that question, because it wasn't really one I had considered until I saw Aleksandra's presentation earlier. So my second question is for Laura, and it's a bit more difficult for me to frame this question. I liked the way that you take these beautiful natural objects, and then am I correct in saying you are then interpreting them? You interpret them by transforming them somehow into, first of all, a 3D printed model of the object, and secondly, into a much more complicated audio-visual kind of presentation, in which eventually it's almost impossible to see the object. And I just wonder it wasn't completely clear in this obviously very short presentation how you undergo that transformation in each case.
So I don't sculpt my object, I just scan them. I'm using photo scanning, or I'm scanning them with 3D scanner. It depends on the size of my stone, let's say, because all of them are stones. And then I'm giving it this transformation in programming, because I want to give this idea that there are some characteristic points about this stone or about the situation which is based on a human relation that I want to cover, like that we are delicate and we should be sensitive towards each other, or maybe there are some hidden aspects of our personality that are not visible or are not, you can't feel them, but they do exist. And depending on the topic of my piece, I'm adding this transformation to this module, so you can like feel it somehow, the meaning of it. And mostly, actually, you can recognize the stone if you have a printed version and this one in the screen. Like, yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. Yeah, there's lots of questions of hapticity and tactility, which I'd love to talk about, but I'm hogging the mic now, so we can do that afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? We still have quite a lot of time for questions. So I encourage you to ask now, not only behind the scenes. Okay, great.
Okay, so I have a question for Magdalena. Because I was wondering if I understood it right, that you are collaborating with Michał, who was presenting 2 days ago?
Yes, yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. So I was wondering, maybe, okay, I will share my thoughts and ask if this is something you would agree with or not.
Yes, okay.
I was wondering, because from his presentation, Michał's presentation, I got this impression that he is creating, making those interventions in space, in public space, and it's a way of, like this trespassing, going through limitations, like liberating, making space more open to people. And from your presentations, I got this impression of more affirmative strategy of creating social spaces for people to bond. So not critical, but more affirmative. So I was wondering if you would agree that in your duo you kind of have this, those two different strategies, or perhaps it's just my, impression after the presentations.
Actually, my projects, they say about, it's like, I'm sorry, because right now I got stressed a bit. So my project is about the temporary. I'm checking if the temporary form I'm using the problem, finding the problem, and then finding some solution, cooperating with people, yes, and then creating the temporary form, which after good acceptance of the people, I would like to be able to make into permanent construction. This is what I do. And this is what I am, my idea, my thought.
So I would appreciate it a lot that you have this collaboration and actually this communication with people who would use the objects, because I remember from one of Michał's slides that he made this ladder to trespass over over a fence, and I was just like wondering. I wish I asked him about that yesterday. I was wondering, like, okay, so who can climb that ladder and who cannot? And I think that would be still valid question, like when we think about accessibility. And from what you are saying, I understand that this is something you do have an interest in, like who's going to use it and how.
Even one of my slides there was like saying that, you know, it's very important to ask good questions and get a good answers. Yes, I will not start building something without like the input of the people. So
thank you.
Also, the best would be to convince people to work with me, so that they could, like, you know, this social groups of people that could feel that it's also theirs, not only mine. Yeah, I'm an artist, came there to their world, and that I'm the cleverest one, and I am doing what I want. So this is my idea about.
Great, I appreciate that approach very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. Okay, great.
Okay, so it's not going to be a question, it's going to be something I would like to share with you, which is a revelation. As some of you might remember, I was one of the speakers on the first day, and I was talking about, together with Magdalena Pulińska, about slime mold, right? And today I saw in the program, okay, there is another person talking about slime mold, and I was wondering, okay, who is the other slime mold lady? And I was just like, okay, who's that going to be? And apparently, Nadja, whom I have never seen before, she just sat next to me when she entered the building. And you can say that this is just coincidence, blind chance, right? Or perhaps this is this artistic intelligence we were speaking about for 3 days. So just for you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's give applause to our speakers.